Maybe start recording. There we go. Okay. John, I'm guessing it's you. We're getting a crosswind. If you could mute yourself unless you... There we go. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you guys for coming. Just to kind of give you a brief heads up, we didn't have a quorum for last month's meeting. Everybody was everywhere. So we don't have any minutes to approve, so technically there wasn't a meeting. But just to kind of get you up to date, this meeting is probably going to be pretty short, I'd imagine. Mostly just want to go over the plans for the convention on Saturday, answer any questions, see if there's anything I've forgotten, and obviously kind of have an open forum discussion as well. So with that, I'm just ready to dive in. The first thing on the agenda is just what my ED stuff, my accomplishments, things that I've done over the past, this is over 2 months since we didn't officially have it on the record previously. But so over the past 2 months, worked 29.25 hours in that time, published the results of the Bikes on Transit survey. We also had interviews with the Tribune and Fox 13 regarding the emergency changes, as well as interstate rail. I did create finally a TikTok account. It is Ride UTRU on TikTok. There's all of one video on there. So if you take a video, get it over to me. We can get it uploaded. We can do all that sort of stuff. But we can go ahead and start pushing that as well. It's finally official. It is there. Also published our quarterly newsletter over that last time. On the fundraising side of things, so about a month ago, I met with Megan Waters, Jaron Robertson, and Nicole Bordeaux over at UTA and presented the grand kind of push for the advocacy program. They were very excited about the proposal. I'm happy to report. Their biggest thing is two big things. The first thing is they really want us to start. They don't want the impression that it is just UTA pushing for something through us, and I told them that we did not want to do that either. So their idea was basically to start reaching out to cities and counties, actually, to see if we can't start securing some funding through that source. So they gave me a couple contacts. I have not had an opportunity to follow up with them yet, just because I've kind of been planning for both our quarterly meeting in September as well as the upcoming convention in October. So I just haven't had a chance to really sit down and do that. But Chris, I see you're on mute.
Point of order.
Yes. Point of order.
You're talking about funding for us.
So this is specifically funding for the advocacy training program that we've been talking about. So this is where we're going into the communities, teaching people about how to advocate for transit and things like that by breaking it down into their local communities. That being said, there is a general admin portion of that budget put in there. And so it will fund general UTRU operations. However, the bulk of it will be going towards the program because, as we all know, organizations love funding programs, not necessarily just the organization as a whole.
Okay, that's fine.
That being said, what I can tell you is that once we do start to secure funding, this will probably be the primary role, in my opinion, of UTRU for quite some time. And the way I've written it is, yes, technically it's all going towards these programs. However, if we advertise, we're advertising UTRU in general. We just also happen to be advertising the specific program, if that makes sense. And then we can also kind of parlay that, building our chapters and that sort of stuff. So it all works together. But the big takeaway from that is, they didn't want to just make it look like UTA is just funding this thing. So I'm going to be reaching out to some of the contacts that they gave me to hopefully see if I can't continue to garner support and see if we can't get more people on board. Obviously, if we can get the buy-in of cities and counties, that will make things easier as well. So that's the next step post-convention that I really want to do as far as that's concerned. And then in addition, what I've started doing, Chris, I already know you're aware of this a little bit, is I've started to reach out to banks and credit unions are required to have community grants programs of some sort. It's part of the rules. So I've started to reach out to a couple of banks. I didn't get very far. I've only reached out to like Zions Bank, Mountain America, and Wells Fargo. just to kind of put ourselves out there a little bit. I've pulled up the list of the top 20 banks in Utah, and it's my intention to reach out to all of them over the next month or so, just saying, hey, this is what we're doing. Can you fund us? That'd be great. So hopefully starting to bring in more funds through that as well is the plan. As always, if you are aware of someone I should be talking to specifically, let me know, put me in contact with them, and we'll take them from there. Mike, you got your hand raised? And
Probably be good to talk to Intermountain Healthcare and University of Utah health systems, because they might have interest in getting more people, being able to move more people to medical appointments using transit.
Sure, that's not a bad idea. Well, we're recording it, so I don't need to write it down. No, it's a good idea. And I think we floated it not terribly long ago. John, I'm sure you got something to add?
Yeah, I'll remind me about that, Curtis, and I'll hit up some of the people that are on the board at the U over that and figure out the appropriate channel. Harriet Hoff will be a good resource. She was one of the largest donors to the U as well as a co-faculty and an advisor. So
should be great. Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, I'll remind you of that as well once we wrap up. Continuing on my activities, Mike and I both attended the first Wasatch Front Regional Council Citizen Advocacy something. I can't remember exactly what it was called. But it was actually a pretty good meeting in my opinion. We had about, 30 people in the room, 35 or so from various transit organizations and citizen advocacy groups and those sorts of ideas. The idea being that it is a group of citizens outside of government organizations, basically talking about transit, talking about what we'd like to see as far as, I don't know, how would we describe it? As far as just how we can direct and guide what the future of transit looks like along the Wasatch Front specifically. Since then, I've had a couple of individuals reach out and say, hey, I want to get a little more involved. We've got a couple of contacts from there, so that's exciting. They were the people I talked to. Oh, I lost the name. I can't find it, but there was a couple of people up in Ogden that seemed interested in learning a little bit more. So I've reached out to them a little bit to find out kind of what's going on up there, see if we can get some more people. Also, I met with Michelle Ipson. She is a grad student up at the University of Utah, and her grad school project is, they're figuring it out. I had a 15-minute meeting or so with her. But what they want to do is they want to target a specific organization and help them grow their membership. And that is some organization that is involved with increasing or improving air quality in the state of Utah. So they reached out to me, or she reached out to me a couple of weeks ago. We had a meeting 2 days ago, actually. We finally got together. So she's going to take her ideas. We're kind of have a little bit of back and forth, but her ultimate goal as the grad student project is to help an organization improve membership, and then by way of improving air quality. They're still trying to hammer it down, but it seemed like a pretty productive meeting. And if we can have grad students working for us for free, all the better, I say. As far as upcoming activities are concerned, we of course have our annual convention this coming Saturday, 10 a.m. via Teams. So please be sure to remind everybody to hop on. Also, I'm sending emails back and forth with Rod Dunn. He's the president of the American Transit Riders or Transit Union. They're the ones that actually operate the buses and trains. It is the actual union for them here in UTA, with UTA, I should say. So we're trying to hammer down a meeting. It's my hope that we can get some money from them as well. And then Chris told me about a conversation he had with Ellen Burrell. She's councilwoman for Cottonwood Heights. And in kind of the emails that we were having back and forth, I was having back and forth with her, it sounded like she wants UTRU to present something regarding transit along the Wasatch Front to the cities and counties. So if I can tie that into the UTA stuff, all the better. Her schedule is pretty packed, so I'm probably not going to be able to meet with her until later in November, hopefully before Thanksgiving. But yeah, I'm hoping to get a hold of her as well. And then post-convention, just to let you guys know, I know we discussed the Women on Transit survey. So I'm planning on putting that together post-convention, sending that out, start building numbers from there. And then my phone just died, so I lost my numbers, but let's see if it pops back up. I think we had something like, a total of 104. There it is. Sorry. We had 161 new Twitter followers over the past 2 months. We're now at 104 or 488 followers. People love maps. Mike, I know you sent over a map not too long ago, so I'm going to push that out in a couple days, maybe a week or two, actually. We get a ton of response whenever we send out maps, so I'll keep doing it. We have one TikTok follower, which is me, because no one else knows it's around. 3 YouTube followers. We've had 33 new members sign up over the past 2 months. We're now sitting at 108 members. We had a total of 11 people pay their dues over the past year. So they will be voting in the convention. Hopefully I'll continue to push it until right to the bitter end, but there we are on that. And then we have 14 people currently sitting on our mailing list that do not wish to be considered members but still want to receive information from us. So that's my update as far as what I've been up to. Are there any questions about that? And you're all muted, so keep that in mind.
I have just a quick financial, where we're at financially.
Yeah.
So basically the last payroll, we were short some fundage to be able to pay Curtis his wages. So I had to pry open my wallet. It's tough to open sometimes. It doesn't quite open up, but this time
flying out.
There's a lock box on there. But so effectively I had to put in another $2,000. That'll keep us running basically for 3.5 months.
Yeah.
So the if you have an extra couple of $1,000s lying around that you'd like to donate before the end of the year, or if you know someone, remember it's completely tax deductible. I take it through my business because my house is not worth anything. Thanks to Trump, I have a big standard deduction rather than the money I used to get from my house and that. So at any rate, I'm confident that what Curtis is doing is going to get us some money in 3.5 months. But if it doesn't, then I guess I can sell my printer. I don't know. I mean, we'll just we need to start looking at at getting the membership. So I calculated it for the money that we need to keep Curtis working, which, by the way, he's doing a fantastic job. Everything I could have hoped for, when we first talked about this. So we can't just, walk away from this because we don't have the money. We've got to get it. But the numbers I ran is that if 1,200 people donate $5, then we have him part-time for a year. If 12,000 people donate $5, then we have him full-time for a year. So that's just kind of where our fundraising needs to be. So if you have any extra money lying around, certainly send it our way.
Yep. Yeah, and actually, on that note, on a personal note, I think I did mention it for the few that were on, and Chris, I know you were aware as well. By this time last month, I was actually let go from my previous position. I have found a new position, but it will not like a full-time position. But it won't be starting until October 31st, at which point, unfortunately, I'm going to be working swing shift, which I'm not thrilled about. The money's good, but the time sucks. So we'll have to figure out kind of a new time for me to meet with you all. But that being said, what it will do is allow mornings and afternoons for me to be free, which I will hopefully be able to continue to dedicate to UTRU. That's my plan anyway. But yeah, so once we bring in a new board, we'll have to figure out probably a different time to meet, because in 2 months I will be working during this time frame. So I just kind of want to give you guys a heads up, since actually everybody on this call has applied to be on the board, so for the next year. So just letting you guys know on that front as well. Yeah, any other comments before we move on to the annual meeting discussion?
So on the budget side, I'm definitely gonna jump in. I talked to my accountant, and so I have some room to jump in as well. And I also say again.
You have until December 31st to donate.
Okay. Yeah.
Anything after that is for next year. So.
Yeah, I plan to put something on this year because this is my first year as a homeowner, as a full calendar year, and I'm lucky enough to, I think, meet the deduction. We'll see. And then, so the other thing is, I did write. We should hear, I think, sometime in October, if not November, around the grant that I submitted for UCare, and we put in $2,000 in the budget for UTRU around educational activities for the Vanpool trial, and so that should help as well.
Yeah, and between members signing up and paying dues, honestly, the money is going to come from high dollar donors as well as these grants that we come in. Anything additional is great, but at least on the grants that I've submitted, I always ensure that we just put a general admin in there to cover general UTRU costs that are related to what we're doing, since pretty much every activity we're doing in some way is related to that, right? So budgetarily, we can justify it. I'm not worried about it. But and then if the majority of my work is going towards these specific advocacy programs, well, then it's funding itself as well. So between all of that, I'm obviously going to continue pushing. People are excited, I will say, with the advocacy program. UTA specifically seems very excited about it. So I just need to chase that money down and chase those programs down. And then once we get that, great, fantastic. Then we can start billing towards it. And hopefully Chris doesn't need to pick up quite as much of the load. Okay, anything else before we move on? Okay. All right, so just the next agenda item I had was the October annual meeting discussion. So obviously, again, yes, this Saturday, 10 a.m., please be there. Everybody on the call has signed up to continue their membership on the board with the exception of Chris, since he gets grandfathered in. And we did have two people also sign up, Zachary, I forget his name, and a Brianna something as well. One's from South Jordan, Brianna's down in Provo, so at least we'll get a little bit more representation from there. I would be surprised if they don't get voted on, but just to kind of give a brief overview, and I didn't include this actually in the agenda, but Chris, maybe if you want to take like 2 or 3 minutes as part of the meeting as well, just to kind of say, hey, this is our accomplishments, this is what we've done over the past year. Because I'm just going to just run things for the most part. I don't intend to do that, but kind of give a brief history, some of our accomplishments, that sort of stuff. If we could have you do that kind of as the president. Mike, I would ask you to do it as well, but because you're running, just a little weird there. That being said, everybody who's running will get 2 minutes to just kind of give a brief, hey, here's me, here's why I want you to vote for me, yada, yada, yada. That'd be great. And then from there, we'll kind of transition into elections. How I had it planned is it would just be a yes, no, should this person sit on the board. If we happen to have 4 nominations that push us over 9 people, because we'd want to get 9 seats filled if we could, that'd be great. We would go into ranked choice voting, which I have both systems set up. However, if it's 9 or under, it's just going to be a straight up, do you want this person to sit on the board, yes or no? Chris?
So there's kind of a kink in this.
Okay.
And that is that technically we would be, and you'd have to look at the bylaws. I think it's 4. I think in the even number years we elect 4, and in the odd number years we elect 3. So technically we would be electing 4 for 2-year terms, and then next year we would be electing the additional 3. So I don't know the best way to do that. I mean, because obviously we can't elect everybody right now, right? Because so we would have to stagger it.
Can't we just do 4 and then do 5 on 1-year terms?
Yeah. So my guess would be that we take the top 4. We do the ranked choice because I'm pretty sure we're going to have 5. So
yeah, so we have 5 people signed up.
So we do ranked choice, whoever has the top, but I guess the problem is that, well, everybody has to rank 1 to 5. And then whoever has the top 4 will be elected for the 2 years. And then the 5th person would be elected only for a year, which would mean that they would have to run again next year.
Okay.
Unless, of course, I mean, there's still a possibility that we get more than 7 people that want to be on the board on Saturday, because there are a few people that have paid dues, and typically what I see is that the people that pay dues, either they are going to vote for sure or they're going to run themselves. So,
well, and I thought about that. So technically, Mike, Randy, and John would be entering their second term, or the second year of their term, if you want to get technical about it.
Right. So, but again, that's
what I would say. Just make well, if we're on our second year, then we don't even have to get elected, right?
Well,
we elected before.
So how it worked was, because there was no board when we started, Chris appointed you. He has the power within the bylaws to appoint you to the board.
Okay.
So and then it becomes this thing of like, well, if you serve more than 6 months in a temporary technically you're all temporary board members. So I guess
I would say we just put on 4 people on 2-year terms and the rest on 1 year, and do it again next year, and have whoever's been on the shortest gets the 1 years, and whoever's longest gets the 4 years.
Yeah, and I would think that probably the easiest way to do that is just the ranked choice, and take the top 4 to be elected in the first 2-year term. And then everybody else is, well, you get a consolation, you're on the board, but you have to be reelected next year.
Yeah, I mean, we could do that. That's not a problem. That wasn't technically in the rules, but I can update that, because one of the first things we'll do at the convention is update or vote in the rules, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we can do anything we want as long as we have a quorum and everybody's paid their dues.
Yep. So we can just have that almost as a voice in. I have both types of ballot ready to go, so it's just whatever happens. But if we get that voted in, and we can also just see if people will say, hey, I'll just do it for a year, and then in a year I'll run again. But we could have that definitely as kind of the main plan of just the ranked choice. And unfortunately, it should shake out. I don't think it'll cause any problems. But yeah, it'll just be who's your first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, fifth choice, blah, blah, blah.
Does it make it more complicated for the people voting, or it's the same?
No, it shouldn't be difficult. How I have it set up, it's going to be, so that's the next thing I want to bring up, actually. So how I have it set up is they're just Google Docs. And so the verification is the link to that Google Doc will be the link or the email address that they use to pay their dues. So they will receive the link. If someone happens to get a hold of the link, which I don't know how they would, but if they did, the check is, you have to put in the email address that you use to pay, or that you use on PayPal. So if it's curtis.haring@utru.org, the ballot gets sent to that email. You have to type in curtis.haring@utru.org. If you don't do that, it spoils your ballot. If it happens twice, well, then we have to figure something else out, but I don't think that's going to happen. But basically, you can't just put in, chris.stout@utru.org and be able to vote, right? I would cross-check that. I would say that person is not dues paying, so their vote doesn't count. I don't know how you got our link, but it doesn't count. So that's the first part. Second part is with the ranked choice, specifically it's here's so it's an alphabetical order. So for the purposes of the call, here's Randy, here's Mike, here's John. What's your first choice, second choice, third choice? If I put Randy as my first choice, Mike is my second, John is my third, I can't then do, well, Randy is my first and my third choice. It only allows you to do one and then fill it in from there. So it will work for the purposes of what we're doing. When we have tens of thousands of members, which hopefully we do one day, this will not work. But for the purposes of how we're doing it now, it will. Once we reach that point, we can certainly start to talk about other options. But for the limited number of people that actually are eligible to vote, it's manageable. It shouldn't be too difficult. So they will have 15 minutes. I'll announce it during the convention. Basically, after everybody's had a chance to have floor nominations and speeches and all that sort of stuff, I'm going to say, okay, I am sending out the email now. You should be receiving the ballot now, or within the next minute or so, and it will be open until I'll say roughly 15 minutes, whatever kind of works out to be. And then it will close. And then based off of that, we'll finish up everything. And then I will just announce, hopefully, maybe that's when we'll have Chris talk a little bit about what's going on. It'll give me an opportunity to kind of tally votes and all of that sort of stuff. So let's actually plan on that.
Am I the floor show?
Yeah, you're the floor show, man. You're gonna get some sparklers and do all that sort of stuff. Maybe have you pitch the idea of the importance of chapters and what that kind of looks like. And while you're doing that, I can just kind of be waiting for results to come in and all of that sort of stuff, and then announce it at the end. And then we'll just call it a day. I'll announce who the orders are. Here's our 2-year term people. Here's our single year term people. And then from there, we'll figure out a time to get together probably in another week just to kind of plan out and talk about it, but we'll figure that out. Or honestly, if just the 2 individuals, or if we have more floor nominations as well, maybe I'll set up a meeting with them separately just to kind of introduce them. And then we'll have a regular meeting, maybe a secondary meeting in a week or 2, just to introduce everybody on the board to everybody. We'll figure it out from there. So that's the plan for Saturday. Any thoughts, any ideas, anything that you guys like to add on that one?
So, go ahead, Randy.
How is it going to work? Is it an online meeting then, or is it? And how many people do we expect to be there?
So we have 11 voting members to be there. However, I mean, if it's like our convention, honestly, or our quarterly, honestly, I'd expect 25 to 35 people to be listening in. These things either attract a lot of people or not very many, and it's just because of the nature of we're just doing nuts and bolts sort of stuff.
And you're publishing this on Twitter and TikTok.
Yeah. I've been pushing it out. I've been pushing it out through Twitter primarily. I also got the Facebook, which I will hit up again. And then also our direct email. I've been sending out emails directly through our newsletter, through the website as well. Those are actually getting pretty decent reads and being opened. I can actually get you the stats on them, but people are reading them. I don't want to bombard them too much, but like the most recent one I sent out on Monday, it had 52.1% opens. So people are looking at them, they're aware of them. I'm going to push it out one more time tomorrow as, hey, set your calendar for Saturday. See you tomorrow at 10, right? And then also follow that up on Twitter, on Facebook.
It's been my experience that we can get anywhere from 1 to 12.5 people.
Yeah.
But we might get more because Curtis has been pushing it pretty hard. So
yeah. So, but that's how I'm pushing it out. And like I said, I'll have one final push tomorrow before the convention. So we'll see how many people. Oh, go ahead.
Will it be a Teams meeting then, or a Zoom meeting?
It'll be Teams. And the other big thing is I will technically in the rules I say that you have to get your donation in before 10 a.m. so the start of the meeting. But I'll say right at the start, like you've got 2 minutes. If we'll make a little bit of an exception if you want to hop in and make your dues. I'll put the link in and say, okay, well, this is your absolute last chance, but we want you to participate. So right at the start, and then I'll obviously. Oh, go ahead.
We've taken money in the meetings before. So,
yeah.
But I mean, obviously we can't take cash, but.
Yeah. And the nice thing is those emails will come into me. I'll be able to see them pretty instantaneously. And then I'll just update my list accordingly to send out ballots to whomever comes in. So, yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan for Saturday.
All right,
anything else?
Yeah, one last thing that so Brianna actually works for UTA. She's a bus operator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think it is a problem. I don't think it's an issue. I don't know that it's an issue that she can't participate because of UTA, but we want to make sure that that is not an issue for her to be here. Personally, I don't have any problem with anybody who is within UTA being a member who is obviously not a member of management. If they are a member of management of UTA, then I think that's a finer line. Because if that was the case, then all of the managers could come and pay their dues and then elect themselves to the board, and that obviously wouldn't fly. So
right. No, she's just train host. She's really awesome on Twitter, actually. And you know, it's the same thing that if we bring on the transit union, the bus operators union, if we start getting members from there too, it's a little bit different than the management. But that's a future discussion. They're still, you know, directly on the ground dealing with the real issues. So I personally don't have any problem either with people on the ground being on the board or just being members in general, or you know, if management did as well, that's fine. We don't need to have that discussion today. What's that? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Something we may want to have for a future meeting is: do we have any protection in the bylaws from the scenario that Chris outlined of management coming in and jumping in and then voting themselves on?
Well, the thing that we do have is me and one other person. So unless they come on and they're able to get 7 full members elected, then that's pretty tough. But again, part of our membership rules say that we can determine who is a member and who isn't. So if that were to happen all of a sudden, then we can invalidate any person's membership at any time.
Okay. So we do have, so there's at least some mechanism.
So there's a mechanism. Yeah, and I mean we went through this whole process at the beginning when we formed the union, because we were afraid of that potentially being a problem, right? Back when UTA was probably a little bit more evil than they are today.
Right.
But again, the mechanism is there that anybody who applies for membership we can turn them away. So they have to be accepted first. So really, Curtis, the one thing that we would have to do is all these dues paying members that show up is basically as a group, we would have to, you know, vote to say, yep, all these people are accepted right now as members. And if there's any reason why they're not you know, you're a trustee, Mr. Carlson, we don't want you on our board. So yeah.
Right. Okay, well that's a good just nuts and bolts thing that we'll have to take care of. But that shouldn't be too big of an issue. Okay. Any other questions for Saturday? Okay. The last thing is just the open forum section. Is there anything anybody wants to discuss that we haven't already talked about?
I just have a question about any response that we have to the news about cutting routes and lowering the service level, especially for the bus thing, and it's conveniently happening while they're arguing about whether it's a bus or tram thing. Are we weighing in on that, or is there any thing we're working on that?
Yeah, so as far as official, I had the Tribune contact me and I put out a statement basically saying it's a disappointment, but it wasn't surprising. I mean, and the honest, in my opinion, I mean, the writing's been on the wall for months now, as far as those cuts are concerned. I mean, bus routes have continuously over the past 6-8 months, really 6, they've been cutting service the day of. And it was because they didn't have anybody to drive the bus. They had the similar problem, especially on the blue line. I noticed they were having that problem of they just did not have someone to operate the vehicle. So the long and the short of it was, it's disappointing. It's not surprising. What we need to do is use this as an opportunity to advocate for transit and push for transit and transit funding. And so that was the angle I took on it. As far as the gondola is concerned, I personally believe it's two separate issues. The gondola is a UDOT decision, not a UTA decision. I am of the opinion and that UTA would have preferred the bus routes going up there. I have to wonder if there was a special deal with UDOT and some contractor to get that gondola put in. Alta and what is it? It's not Snow Basin. Which one is it? Is it Snow Basin? Snowbird, that's right. I am sure they love the idea of a gondola because it's bright and pretty and shiny. But I think UTA and what UDOT either didn't care about or just didn't think about is the fact that we have to stop and get people onto the gondola. There has to be a physical transfer somewhere, as opposed to just running a bus up to the canyon. So I don't think UTA is doing this as a we're upset about the gondola situation. I don't think it's a UTA. I don't think UTA had much of anything to do with it as far as what the decision was made. I think that UTA is legitimately trying to, they just don't have enough drivers. I think the last time I talked to them, it was part of that discussion I was having earlier about how they wanted me to reach out. I think they're short something like 62 bus drivers, which is about 5% of their total drivers, which can have a very real impact. And they're just having difficulty hiring.
And I don't think that they necessarily had anything to do with the UDOT's decision-making process or anything like that. But when you take routes, the only routes that are near capacity 100% of the time and then start cutting them, that's just dumb. So, I mean, if you say you don't have drivers, then you got to allocate more money towards that thing that's in use. I mean, it's just, it's terrible.
And
man.
that's the problem, Randy, because because they did raise the starting wages a little bit, but starting wages is still $21 an hour, and it maxes out at $26 an hour. And so it's not just a problem of getting drivers, it's a problem of retaining the drivers that are here, because you know, if you're working for UTA for 20 years as a bus operator and you're only making $54 or $54,000 a year, you know, you can't even afford to live in a place in Salt Lake County for that anymore. So I think the longer term is, and we can talk more about this on Saturday when we talk about our goals. I think it's important. I think that we have to talk about getting that service restored, but that's necessarily we're going to have to talk about getting more money allocated, right? So UTA operators are on the lower end of bus operator wages when we look at systems throughout the country. And so necessarily, my opinion is that, yeah, until we come up with more money, then, you know, it's not going to be that way. So my fear is that they're cutting the routes because they recognize they're going to have to pay drivers more. And then once they pay drivers more, they're not going to have any more money to reinstate the service. And so that means we're going to have to go to the legislature and say, look, you know, all of these 15-minute routes have been reduced. There's only one 15-minute route in Weber County now. There's not even a 15-minute route. Oh, there is. I guess the 470 is considered a 15-minute route, but there's no 15-minute routes in Davis County. There's only two 15-minute routes in Utah County. And to be honest with you, you can't operate a bus system with very few 15-minute routes. So anyway, I could take, you know, tons more time, but I think that once we get more members on the board and more members that can actually, you know, raise the signs and do the advocacy and say we need more bus drivers because we need more routes, then you know, then we're going to be there. But the problem is we're still not quite there yet, where we have a full board of people and a good number of members. And so membership and board of directors are what we have to push for, so that we can push for getting that service restored. But I definitely agree. It has to be our number one push.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And I think, and that's part of the idea behind the advocacy training, right? Is not only does that grow our membership and get more people involved, but it also gives current and future members the opportunity to have the tools to do that, to raise the signs and say, "Well, you know, we want more money for mass transit." And I think that's why there's actually, just in talking with various organizations, why there's excitement behind that. And that's why I'm trying to chase down funds to actually get it up and running. I think once it actually is in place, then we will have results to show for it. I think more will come in on both on the money and fundraising side of things, and then also on the membership side of things. So it's it's a bit of a chicken and an egg, but pushing forward on that. UTA definitely wants us to be able to be in a position to say, hey, give them more money for things like this, which is why I think they've been so cooperative and helpful up to this point, because we can say things they can't. And so, I mean, long answer to your question, but I think we are building that capacity. Organizations that I talk to are excited to hear that we are back up and running and wanting to be supportive and finding ways to do that. So, as we transition into kind of this second, this updated board, the second year for some people, that I feel will be the push, and I think we'll see continued growth in both memberships and funds. So, yeah. Anything else anybody wants to discuss? Going once, going twice. All right, well then we'll go ahead and call it a meeting. I didn't put it in the thing, Chris. I'm sorry. I meant to do it, so I do need an official close.
Oh my gosh!
I'm sorry, I forgot.
So I'm making a motion to adjourn.
Yes, is there a second? There we go, John seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, well, there we go. We'll call it. Thank you guys so much. We will plan on seeing you on Saturday.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Yep.